Buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Okay, streaming live across the world on your favorite internet platform at michaeldukeshow.com, and also around the state of Alaska on this your favorite radio station and or translator. It is the Michael Dukes Show. Hi, how are you? It's Monday. Oh, man, it is Monday, and what a day, my friends. What a weekend. Crazy, crazy stuff going on around the around the world here and around the around everywhere right now. Welcome to it. Happy Monday to you, and I know it's going to be a great one for you. I'm speaking that into existence for you. It is going to be a great day for you today. I just know it in my heart of hearts. It's going to be a good day for all of us today. And I want to share that with you. So this morning, we got some headlines, and I don't have any guests. I was going to get. I've got Kelly Shibaka. She's going to be coming up on Wednesday. We're going to have Kelly Shibaka on the program in hour one, and we're going to be talking with her about that on Wednesday in the first hour. And then we've got State Senator Mike Shower coming up after that. Tomorrow, of course, Brad Keithley, Chris Story. Thursday, we're working on some new ones. We might see if we can get Jesse Bjorkman on the program, since he has now been announced that he is running for the Senate seat in the previous district. I guess it was O. Is it K now? I can't even remember. It's Senate district. It's Machicki's district. He is running for that seat right now, and we've already had Tuckerman Babcock on, so we'll probably get Jesse on maybe on Thursday. We're working on that. Still trying to get JKT on, Jonathan Christ Tompkins, to talk about the fiscal policy working group, and I've got a lot of stuff going on here, man. There's a lot of stuff happening. All right, so that's going to be kind of the direction we're going this morning. We're going to hit headlines, talk about some things, and then we're going to open up the phone lines and take your phone calls. Now, I'm going to do that here just a little bit later, because if I open up the phone lines early, then I never get to the stories that I want to get to. Not that I love talking to you, don't get me wrong, but there are certain things that I definitely want to talk about today that well, let's just say I definitely want to get to some of these things before we go too far on this and forward. So let's get this out of the way first, because you know how we're always talking with Willie, and Willie's always telling me that he's talking about the Oscars and stuff, and I'm like, I could care less about the Oscars. And I guess I still wouldn't have cared to watch the whole thing, because I just find it I find it, that it is a party of self-gratification. They're all up there, slapping each other on the back and everything. Great. They're, artists doing their artist thing, but at the same time, I've never really liked the Oscars. Well, so I got a text message last night, and it was late. It was late for me, from Willie, who said, so this would have been almost 11:30 midnight on the East Coast. He says, you should have watched the Oscars. Will Smith punched Chris Rock out over a joke about his wife. And it turns out it wasn't quite a punch. It was more of a slap. But at first, people thought it was a joke. I don't know if you saw this. I had to go out and, of course, immediately pull the video down to see what was going on. And this really has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that I find it interesting because Chris Rock made some kind of joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, who is, of course, Will Smith's wife. She has alopecia, which is a disease, a condition that causes you to lose your hair. Your hair thins out, and so she has been going. She showed up bald. She'd just shaved her head all the way off because, at that point, it's like I told my wife. I said, if I ever start to go bald, I'm just going to shave it all down, just go full on Jean-Luc Picard, with nothing but just the stubble around the edge. But this is apparently what Jada did. And then Chris Rock made some kind of joke about her hair and how G.I. Jane 2 should be coming out shortly with her or something. And the joke just faltered. It fell on its face because, again, this is not something she chose. This is not like a fashion statement where she chose to go all, Susan Powder on her head and shave her head intentionally or whatever. This was, because she has a medical condition. Anyway, the joke really fell flat. And after all of a sudden, Will Smith stalks up out of the audience and just smacks the crap out of Chris Rock and walks back to his seat. And people thought it was a joke. They thought it was a joke at first until Chris Rock said something to him. And Will Smith repeated a couple times that, you keep my wife's name out of your blankety blank mouth. And it was shocking. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, go Will. Usually people they got to take that jab and they got to do, and Will's like, yeah. My wife's like, I was with him up until he started talking trash about don't put my wife's name in your mouth, yada, yada. And I'm like, I just thought it was amazing. I just thought, it has nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do with anything else. And no, I'm not going to be watching the Oscars again anytime soon, hoping for a repeat of that because it just doesn't matter at that point. But, yeah, bam. That was pretty amazing to watch. You can check that out on YouTube if you want. It is it's pretty amazing. And I got to be honest, I have a bit more respect for, not that I was disrespectful of Will Smith, but I felt like, wow, that was pretty amazing. Somebody in the chat room said, you shouldn't even give this a story any attention. There are actors. I mean, that's fine. But, this story just can't – all I can think of is, wow, that's, it's just not something you see. I guess I thoroughly enjoyed the spectacle of it, but I also enjoyed the fact that here's a man that was willing to basically march up on stage in front of God and everybody and defend his wife, and I thought that was – I thought that was pretty baller. That's just me personally. It's just me personally. So anyway, and I'm sure it will make a fantastic. The interwebs are going to love it. So there you go. That was like one of the stories that I had to get to today because wow, wow. The other one's a little closer to home. I don't know if you saw what happened. If you've been paying attention, what happened in Palmer over the end of last week. Late last week, the Palmer Chamber of Commerce put out a press release and decided that they were going to ditch the community festival that they've been putting on there for, over 80 years. Since 1936. That was the first time they started putting on this community festival every summer called Colony Days. And it has taken place every year since 1936, with the exception of 2020 because it was canceled due to COVID. But every other year, it is a huge deal. And I've participated. I've been a volunteer in Colony Days. I've helped to do the events and everything else. And it is a big thing. It is something that the people of Palmer really love and really are invested into as a community. So, but they put out this press release last week, at the end of the week, that basically said, "Oh, we've decided we're going to change the name of Colony Days because, well, apparently last year the chamber president elected the chamber at that point had made some kind of comment during the opening of the Colony Days last year, and acknowledged that the white settlers in the area are an issue for some people, and the name Colony Days doesn't make everyone feel good, and that the land is unceded territory of the Athabascan people, and just a lot of stuff that was going on. Well, the Palmer Chamber of Commerce, in basically all up to themselves, decided that they were going to change the name of the Colony Days to the Braided River Festival, which I don't even, what braided, and there was some kind of, I read the press release, and first of all, they didn't say why they were changing the name, other than, join your own conclusion. But they went on to talk about this Braided River Festival, and then they were saying braided rivers or this or that. I mean, it made no sense. This generic Braided River Festival, and they decided by unanimous vote of the board that this is what they're going to do, and they're going to move forward. Oh, my God, the community lost their mind. I mean, first and foremost, I was like, as somebody who's participated and volunteered for Colony Days in the past, I was like, well, that's a bunch of bourgeois. I mean, that is crazy. Yet at the same time, I wasn't the only one. The business community in downtown Palmer, they went off to varying degrees of angst and anger. Whimsy, which is a gift store in downtown Palmer, a cute little gift store there, basically said the rebranding struck a deep chord. As business owners and chamber members, the news we heard today was a punch in the gut. We completely understand why the community is so upset over this decision by the chamber board. We found out the chamber secretly and unilaterally made this decision at the same time the community learned about it. And goes on to talk about, the backlash to this is that basically many people were saying, well, we're going to boycott the chamber members. Here's the newsflash. Chamber members themselves didn't know anything about it. This was a decision by the board. It was never discussed with the chamber members themselves, the people who fund the organization. And there were several businesses in downtown and separate businesses that, Palmer's got kind of that mix of, left and right, what you would feel like would be left and right. And they had a variety of businesses down there from, even up to one of the coffee shops there, which is a pretty, more, I would say probably leans more towards the blue than the red. Even they were outraged. And it got so bad that the Palmer Ale House announced that they were actually putting a stop payment. They had just submitted their chamber dues again, and they were putting a stop payment on the check. It got nasty. People were outraged. Whimsy's post on Facebook got shared like 200 times, had over 350 reactions. Another one from another boutique down the street had, like another 300 or 400 responses, almost all of them negative. And the Peak Boutique owner was basically saying, look, the social media is calling for a boycott of our businesses. The chamber has little regard for the potential devastating economic outcomes of this decision. And, people were like, nope, I'm pulling my chamber membership. It was a disaster. Now, the worst part about this whole thing is that the chamber had expected some backlash. And they were fixing to put some money into this. And we're going to talk about that here in just a second, but we're up against the break. So I'm going to come back to this because this, to me, is the tone deafness of people who are so convinced that what they're doing is right is so shocking. And we're gonna get you to the conclusion of this, but it is crazy stuff what's going on. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back when we return more on this issue out there in Palmer. And the conclusion of it Hint, sneak peek, it's got a happy ending. We'll find out more about that here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show continues. Your home for common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Hi, how are you guys? How are you? Herdy birdie. Herdy burger. How you guys doing? Are you guys ready for another great day? I'm just trying to figure out why this is not running right. Okay, I'm trying to fix it. Hi, how are you? Wow. Going back through some of the comments here, let me scroll backwards here. There we go. Let's see. Better story. Blake Sheldon made a statement about 6 kids killed in a car accident in his hometown. I didn't see that part. You need to get Lieutenant Governor Meyer on to tell Alaskans why he is sending out an absentee ballot to every registered voter. We've had that conversation. Check out HB 203 being heard at the State Senate State Affairs Committee today. The liberals want guns locked in our homes. It's an asinine bill. It will go to judiciary next. It's a violation of the Second Amendment. I'll take a look at that. Is that the Guarantors bill, the one that had the mandatory locking or whatever it was? Good luck with that. All right. Going backwards here, coming down. Alaska handing over. I'm scrolling over the story here from the Gateway Pundit. Alaska's hands over election to corrupt Democrats. Upcoming election will have mail-in ballots and no signature check. Yep. Controlled by Obama or someone running a White House or major lawmaker seems all the way to the top in Alaska are being probably blackmailed, coerced, bribed, and threatened to force the state to go under their control, selling it out, letting us get rid of it all, inviting humanity from all over the world, probably a long-term plan by foreign control. I mean, I don't know, Herman. There's a lot of stuff to unpack there. The same people who cry about toxic masculinity are cheering Will Smith for defending his woman, but can't define what woman is. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Oh, what happened there? Let me come back here. I lost some of the comments here. Let me see. Good morning. Good morning. I often first check to see who has sponsored each stupid legislation. That tells me a lot. Yes. Let's see. Can we please have some sunshine, says Rick. I'm all for the sunshine. Bill says, happy anniversary to me and my missus. It's our anniversary of our first day of meeting. That was this weekend. We met on the last weekend of March. We met 32 years ago. 32 years ago. All right. TAR is one of the many sponsors. Okay. All right. We're all up to speed on this. And good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you for coming on board, Bill and Chuck and Christine and Terry and everybody. Happy netting day. She often says she remembers the first words she ever heard me speak when she walked by me I was working at a store at that point, and my boss was there, and she walked by, and as she walked by, all she heard me say is, "Who is that?" Yes, who is that? First words for a husband to speak about his wife. Who is that? Hubba hubba. All right, I'm a dog. What can I say? That's how I am. All right, we're going to jump into this. Kevin McCabe just said HB 203 is Adam Wool's bill. I guess I'm going to have to go out and read this. I thought this was the bill that Tar had put out earlier. I have not heard about HB 203, but I'll go take a look at it. All right, jumping back into it. We're 20 seconds out. Please like and share this video. Like and follow the show page. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. And we will you'll get notifications when we go live. You guys ready to jump back into this? Let's do it. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Okay, welcome back to the program. The Michael Duke Show continues. It's Monday. Headlines. Who's got your headlines? That would be me. We were just talking about this whole blow-up at the Palmer Chamber of Commerce. So they decided that they were going to change the name of the big Colony Day Festival. Colony Days was now going to be the Braided River Festival. And the Christmas time, which was usually Colony Christmas, was now going to be Hometown Holidays, which sounds like it could basically be from anywhere, right? I mean, so the long and the short of it is, I mean, people were outraged. The most interesting thing about this is that the Palmer Chamber knew that this was going to have some pushback on it. I just don't think that they understood how much pushback we were talking about. They had already budgeted $10,000 for outreach to assuage the community's fears. They'd already put all this together. They had $10,000. They were ready. They were going to put this in, and they were going to talk about this and do all this. And then the world exploded for them. I mean, everybody was sounding off. It was all you heard. I wasn't even on social media over the weekend, and I heard about it. And people were just irate. Then a change.org petition got started. And at one point, by Saturday night, it had over 6,000 signatures. I mean, the thing, they'd only announced it like the day before, day and a half before. So anyway, this is all going on. And like I said, businesses canceling their memberships, people putting stop payments on their checks for memberships, the members themselves just being outraged and chastising the chamber, publicly and everything else. And so finally, apparently late last night, or I guess yesterday morning, Sunday morning, 4 members of the Palmer Chamber of Commerce board had quit. They just threw up their hands and walked away. And what was left of the board got together and was like, whoa. And they had a unanimous decision to reverse the planned Colony Days rebrand, and that was going to not move forward. They said the board made an initial decision to rebrand the event based on assumptions that the feedback from a small segment of our membership was enough to make a decision internally. Well, I guess it all depends on who you ask, right? And the fact that most of the chamber membership was not even aware that this was in the offing might make you think that maybe, just maybe, there were a few people in the chamber who had some kind of alternative agenda? Question mark? That they were trying to go woke, or, you know what they say, go woke and go broke at this point. The virtue signaling is real. And the backlash was huge. I was so gratified by the backlash, quite honestly, because I thought it was just me. I thought I was just like, oh, that's nuts, man. That's just nutty. But no, it wasn't just me. It was, oh, man, were people hot. They were hot. And the board listened. I think because they had to. I mean, again, 4 members of the board resigned. And a bunch of businesses were basically saying, yeah, we're done. Ripping up their membership cards. So I guess Colony Days is back. And so is the Colony Christmas. They're not going to change that name either. They've already said that's it right there. So anyway, that was an interesting story where, again, showing how working in your local communities, this is what I've been warning about for a long time, folks. I've been warning about this for a long time. If you quit paying attention to what's going on in your local hometown and you get so absorbed in geopolitics or national politics that you're just, that's all you focus on, this is what happens. This right here is what happens. All right, I've done enough. I still got some other stories that I want to get to, but I do have some phone calls. So let's go to the phones. We'll open up the phone lines, the Pivotel call-in lines at 433-3150, powered by our friends at Pivotel and Satellite West. Let's go over here to the phones and see what you have to say. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Michael. My name is Chris, and I live in Anchorage.
Hey, Chris. What's on your mind?
So, speaking of things going on in local communities, this has been 2 years in a row that ASSA or the school board or more specifically, Meg Zeletel has gone in and affected a local sports team. Now, I know your show has a broader reach than most in Alaska for, just local communities.
Right.
She, being the school board or ASSA, has decided now that this year Eagle River competed in an event locally, their team. They won. They were invited to the National High School Championships. There are no federal mandates. There are no mask mandates. There are nothing in place currently. The school board or ASSA has taken it upon themselves to decide that these kids have to be vaccinated now to be able to go to this event, or they can't go. This isn't the first year. This is the second year.
Right.
This year was Eagle River. Last year was Diamond High School. So you never know who's listening on your show, but the point being is that these people are not doctors. I am not an anti-vaxxer. I am not against vaccinations. I am not one of the crazy COVID people. I mean, it is what it is. People are going to choose what they do. But now you're playing God, and you're not a doctor. You are not qualified to make this decision, and now you're taking things away from kids that could potentially be scholarships or furthering, their lives going forward.
I agree. I think that we're already seeing what's going on. Children themselves are the least likely demographic to be affected by COVID in a long and lasting way. We don't have mandates for masks or anything else, and to decide and deem that nobody can participate unless they're fully vaccinated again is definitely not the inclusive thing that we want to see. This is cute.
Well, I just think you're taking away kids' potential futures, because some of these kids are very good at what they do, and this is a big deal. And there's no mandates to where they're going, which I believe is in Ohio this year. There's no mandates there for anything. And
right.
Meg Zeletel and her little crew of bandits have decided this on their own. It's not a discussion. It's not a nothing. It is what it is what they're telling.
Well, and explain to me, how is Zeletel exerting influence on this? Because I'm not familiar enough with her positions on the – I mean, I know she's on the assembly, and obviously she is very much the progressive, the pro-government progressive. But is she the representative to the what is that, the Alaska School Sports Association, or what is the ASSA?
Yeah, she has involvement with it. There's another woman, and I want to say her last name is the name Johnson, and she's the one I spoke to last year when this happened with Diamond. She had told me that it was decided Meg was a representative to the school board or to ASSA. I can't remember the exact relationship there, but she was the one that ultimately decided to the activities coordinator at Anchorage School District that those kids could not go last year. So I'm assuming it's the same pecking order this year.
Well,
but we can't get them to respond to an email.
You can't get ASSA to respond to an email?
Correct. So I'm going to the school district today.
Yeah, no, I mean, if they're the ones that are deciding this, and yet they are not responsive or explaining their situation, or at least willing to talk to the parents about it, I definitely think that the school board at this point and the district need to be involved in those kind of decisions, or at least
100%.
Yeah, have some kind of say in what's going on. It is frustrating for sure.
And it took last year for somebody to go to an assembly meeting and to a school board meeting and call the school board out. Which Meg was there in person, and she didn't really say anything. But after the whole conversation at the school board with one particular parent and some of the kids over at Diamond testified, they ultimately let them go.
Right. Well, good. Maybe that's what it's going to take again. Another, you have to come back out. I mean, this is, again, that slow, quiet, behind the scenes, kind of insidious drip, drip, drip of authoritarianism. This is what they do. They hope that people aren't paying attention, and until you shine the light on it and get those kind of things reversed, like you're talking about happened last year, this is what we need to do. I mean, that's why we should never stop paying attention to what's going on in our our local elections and our local politics, because that's the stuff that affects us most directly.
Correct. And then, hey, listen, I appreciate your time, and I'll just say, if anyone's listening to your show and they attend assembly meetings and you have an issue with this, please stand up and say something, because it's 12 kids, 12 families that are affected by this.
Yeah.
And, it could potentially be a big deal for some of these kids. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for calling in, Chris. Thank you for being part of the program today. All right. Yeah, I mean, and I think as we look at this thing that happened in Palmer, this is the blueprint, folks. This is the blueprint for getting more people involved and making some changes in the legislature that we need to make. Now, unfortunately, this is not happening down in Sitka or Kodiak or someplace else like that, where you could grab that group of people and and focus that righteous anger on something that, would make a huge difference, like on their legislative choices. But this is an example of how a community coming together can thwart the will of, again, kind of some of these authorities, powers that be, executives, whatever you want to call it. And I, for one, am heartened by what happened down in Palmer. It's some pretty amazing stuff. So anyway, good stories. It's being covered now by pretty much all the major news outlets, except for, I don't think the ADN's got a story on it. I know KTUU does and Must Read, but nobody else seems to have a story on it right now. So anyway, you can go check it out and read about that over there. Also, of course, over the weekend, big news down in the Anchorage area. They had a massive avalanche up off of Highland Road in Eagle River, which made forced the evacuation of something like 100 families out of there. They do have the snow stabilized now, and they're beginning the snow removal. People had to basically evacuate their homes over the weekend, and they're saying now it could take up to 2 weeks to get everybody unplowed and plowed into where they need to go down there. The snow on the road is like 45 or 50 feet deep, and it crosses several of the major roadways there. So I'm just glad that there was no loss of life. No structures were harmed. Again, kind of surprising if you look at the pictures and you see that it moved right past several of the larger homes there and stopped right at the edge of them. But you could see that it's covering roads, again, 60 to 80 feet deep. And, of course, prompting power outages for many of those residents. The power apparently is back up to most of them now, and the area of the avalanche, the evacuation has been lifted, but it's going to take them some time to get in there and get it all squared away. Pretty amazing what can happen, what's going on in there. And, of course, they're going to be watching for whether or not there's going to be more avalanche danger in there in the future as well. All right, I'm coming up on the break. I've got two more lines on hold. We're going to take them here. We're going to get their information during the break, and when we come back, we'll continue with more headlines and some phone calls from you and more. So that's all coming up. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Make sure you come out and check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/Michael Duke Show, and of course, out on YouTube and on Twitch. And the podcasts are available every day after the show as well. You can find them wherever you find great podcasts, CastBox, Stitcher, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and, of course, Spotify. Oh, and they're also available on my website if you want to go read it there. All right, that's it. We'll be back with more. Don't go anywhere. Common Sense, Liberty-Based, Free Thinking Radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
All right, we're in the break right now. Let's get, we got one caller who held on, so let's get their name and where they're calling from. We'll get them set up for when we return to radio. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Mike. Jeff from Homer.
Okay, Jeff.
Wide awake in the wind down here.
You're wide awake in the wind? All right, good. Well, hold the line for me for a quick second. Folks, I just realized that I left something. I have to go grab something real quick. We're going to don't go anywhere. Be right back. Hold on. Okay. That was quick. Whoops, wrong one. Here we go. All right. So, hello, Goro. What was Will Smith thinking when he slapped Chris? Probably like, don't put my wife's word in your mouth. Probably is what he was thinking. Oh, man. He just like stalked up. I mean, walked up on stage in front of God and everybody and just slapped the piss out of that guy. Pretty impressive. All right, what do we got? They still pushing the POMV bill. Where's the full PFD? All the political newcomers promised. Good question. Yes, MROK, Must Read Alaska is the news source for me. I don't read the ADN or watch KTUU. I recommend you still read and watch all the different news outlets because somewhere in there, in the middle, you're going to find the truth, right? That's what I feel. I mean, I feel as we watch all that stuff, you're going to find the truth eventually. You're going to get, because Must Reads, they've got their own political axe to grind just like everybody else. But somewhere between Must Read and ADN and KTUU, you're going to find the truth in there. So I read it all. Reps McCabe's will be heard in Community Regional Affairs tomorrow at 8. It is the gold and silver is legal tender bill. Maybe Kevin wants to call in. Kevin McCabe, if you're still on the air, if you want to call in about that bill. I haven't had any discussion about that bill. I didn't even see it. So if you want to feel like you want to call in later and discuss it, I'd love to see what you have to say. I used to try, but I can't take the regurgitation of propaganda talking about reading the various news outlets. Well, to each his own, Dwayne, to each his own. I will continue to read them all for you and try and decipher it as best I can. Jimmy's like, ooh, wow, $114 a barrel. Yeah, I mean, I guess some speculation that it could rise as high as $200 by summer. And, of course, everything is dependent on what goes on in Ukraine and what continues to happen there. Although that whole thing, ooh, man, what a hot mess is going on over there right now. And things in Russia not getting any better. What's the headline on Drudge today? I'm sure it's the slap. What's the headline on? I didn't even look at Drudge this morning. Yep, slap. The slap on stage was a big. Reading it all is good, says Gail. Believing it is a different story. That's it. I mean, that Gail's got it. You don't believe it. You just read it so you know what everybody's thinking. You know what all sides are thinking. Let's see. We got Russians plan to split Ukraine. Stirs anxiety. Blah blah blah. Ukrainians forced into slave labor. Hostage taking threatens journalists. More atomic weapon warnings. Yeah, I mean, may you live in interesting times. Will Smith at first was laughing at the joke. Was not until he had seen the look on his wife's face before he did what he did. Not as noble as everybody thinks, says Gary. Okay. Dwayne says, reading all that stuff is like being at an RAI listening to people bitch about big oil while buying petroleum products because they're so great. That is true. I mean, there is definitely some deep irony there, Dwayne. I would not disagree with you on that. All right, we're jumping back into it. Here we go. Like and share this video. Like it, follow the show page. Subscribe, ring the bell on YouTube. Hit follow on Twitch or whatever we do on Twitch. Here we go. All right, welcome back to the program. Continuing ahead, headlines and phone calls today. Some of my favorite days, quite honestly. Get to talk about all the hot stuff going on around out there. Got a couple lines open, a couple lines on hold. The number to call is the Pivotel call-in line at 907-433-3150, 433-3150. Let's go back to the phones. Jeff is in Homer. He wanted to sound off this morning. Good morning, Jeff.
Yeah, talking about the lady that wants these poor kids to take the vaccine. Number one, it's a non-tested vaccine. It's not a vaccine. Number two, the parents have clear custody of those kids, and there's nobody in that school system or in America that can tell them what to do with their own kids as far as I'm concerned. And where's our HIPAA laws? And where's all the laws that she's breaking? And, you know, she's like a cancel culture. We need to cancel these people. Fire them. Get rid of them. Get them off the board or whatever they're doing, whatever job they're doing, whatever her title is. I don't know. I didn't get that. But I can tell you for sure, I went through a divorce. My wife abandoned us, and I got custody of my kids, and there was nobody, not even the IRS, could tell me what to do with my kids. You know?
Right.
And I raised them. They went to school. If they skipped school, they had to deal with me, not the school. The school would call, which they did that one time. Thought it was funny, but I caught them. But you know, the whole deal is there are HIPAA laws, there are rules, there are regulations, and these people are running around untethered. You know, they're just doing whatever they want because they've got this position. I could stop. We need to make some rules in this country that they can't do that and make mission goals for these people, and this is what they do, and that's all they do.
I mean, I could see the argument already, though, Jeff. I could see the argument of, oh, you're the parent, you have total control over your child, but participating in these things is a privilege, it's not a right, and so you have to follow certain stipulations. Like, I mean, we tell them that they have to have a certain grade point average, so this is just like that. Is essentially what they're going to say.
Yeah,
I can already see the argument in there.
I know, but you know where I go when they start hauling privileges to me, the warden service and the troopers and everybody else around? There are no privileges in the United States. There's freedoms, right? Get over yourself.
Right.
Find me where there's a privilege, and it says privilege anywhere in any law or any court. It's not a privilege to hunt and fish. It's a right. Lewis and Clark started this country going across it, finding the West with guns and hunting and fishing. All of our forefathers did. Everybody did. So get over it. America is a free country, people. And if you don't like it, go back to India or wherever you come from, Twitter, and get the heck out of America. And that's what we got to start doing. because it is ridiculous what they're saying and doing. This is a free country. The privilege is to work for the government and take care of me as a police officer and take care of me as a school teacher. And when I was in school, that's the way it was, and the teachers were very respected to the kids, and the kids respected the teachers. But now you got this division because of it, and it's crazy, you know.
Well, I mean, look, I agree with it. I agree with the sentiment, Jeff. I mean, I think that the ASSA shouldn't be able to lay out those dictates for sure. And I agree, we should have full control over what goes on with our kids. I mean, that's part of our thing. But it's getting more and more like they want the village to raise the children instead of the parents, and that's why you got to fight back again. And quite honestly, this is why I homeschooled all my kids, because it's none of the village's damn business what I do with my kids. You know what I mean? And so I just, this is why I never participated in that way, because it was so frustrating.
Yeah, well, I know teachers that got it done early when COVID hit and got their kids right out of school and homeschooled them. So, and they didn't talk about it, but they knew what was going on, and they didn't talk about it because they couldn't freaking believe it. You know, I mean, it was amazing what they were doing. In this whole cancel culture thing, you know, we need to start taking care of that. You know, and there are laws on the books. It's just that nobody's sitting up paying attention to fight it. And the facts are, you have custody of your kids, and if they're going to go overseas or anywhere else, you get their passport. If they want a vaccine or you want a vaccine, that's fine. You know what I mean?
Right.
But as far as somebody in some position that has no authority over any of that stuff, probably not a medical person or even a doctor or any kind of degree, telling everybody they got to take an untested, I got to say it again, vaccine, they call vaccine, it's not a vaccine. You can't even call it a vaccine. So, you know, but you can't sue a hospital, you can't sue Pfizer, you can't sue this person, you can't sue that. They're all protected because they're all tied to the damn government and the cancel culture, you know?
Right.
So we need to get our lawsuits back there. I hate to say that, I don't like lawsuits, but, you know, sue the daylights out of them. You know,
well, that's part of the challenge of the whole emergency authorization, of course, is that it indemnifies everybody from being sued. So even if something does, you know, something happens if you take the vaccine, and people have had everything from myocarditis to arrhythmias to reproductive issues. There has been adverse reactions to all this. Even with all that, you can't sue anybody because they're all indemnified. And that's, again, part of the challenge that people have been pointing out with this. Jeff, thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Let's continue ahead here. We got some more callers on the line over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Michael. It's Kevin McCabe. How are you?
Hello, Representative McCabe. How are you, my friend?
Oh, not too bad.
Good. I want to talk to you about this bill. I've only got about 6 minutes, so you want to hold on, or you want to call me back after the break and we can take a full segment and talk about it, because I'd like to get the details on it.
I'm sure I can call you back. That'd be fine, or hold on. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, either way. Let me put you on hold then. If you're willing to hold, let me put you on hold. We're about 4.5 minutes away from the end of the this hour, and I don't want to rush it. I want to find out more. We're going to talk with Representative McCabe about HB 167, which is the gold and silver as legal tender bill that's going to be heard tomorrow in Community Regional Affairs at 8 a.m. So we're gonna talk about that here later on in the program. All right, so hold the line with me. We got Kevin McCabe on the line, and we've got let me mark that here so that I know which one is Kevin. Okay. All right, what else we got? Some other news going on. Oh, a new player has dropped into the race. I mentioned this earlier. That we're going to try and get Jesse Bjorkman on the program later this week. He is filed for Senate down in the Kenai for the Senate seat, which is now, is it K? No, it's D. For Senate seat D, which is previously Senate seat O. He's a friend of Peter Machicki, but has put his name on the list at APOC and publicly stated he wants to give the Kenai Peninsula Borough someone else to vote for other than Tuckerman Babcock. And so we'll see we'll see how that goes. We've had Jesse on the program in the past and debated some stuff with him, so it should be an interesting take. Senate President Machicki has not said whether he's going to stay in the race. He did file, but he has not stated whether or not he is going to run again this year. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But that's just another race, again, that is getting more and more people involved. This is Senate Seat D down on the Kenai Peninsula. And, of course, a whole slew of names has now flown around the the congressional seat formerly held by Congressman Don Young. Not only do we have Nick Begich and Democrat Chris Constant, now it looks like Sarah Palin is thinking about it. Chris Tuck, the Anchorage Democratic rep, Native leader Tara Sweeney, attorney and gardening writer Jeff Lowenfels of the ADN, independent Al Gross, Josh Revak. There's a whole slew. Even Andrew Halcrow apparently has decided he wants to throw. There's just so much going on here, and they've all got until Friday to kind of make up their decisions here as to what they're going to do. Friday, April 1st, is the deadline for filing on this, and so it's going to be a true jungle. It's a jungle primary out there, an absolute jungle. So we'll go through some of the details on some of those, some of these candidates, and yeah. Oh, by the way, Elvie Gray Jackson announced as well that she is no longer running for the U.S. Senate against Kelly Tshibaka and Lisa Murkowski. She decided that after first quarter fundraising that she's going to just, how did they put it? She said that as a first quarter fundraising concludes, and after reflection on the system and expenses necessary to run a successful campaign, she's decided to focus efforts on work that could be done in the state Senate. And she basically is now pulling back and retiring out of that campaign for U.S. Senate. She's going, which is one of the reasons why Tuck might be running, because he is going to have to run against Elvie Gray Jackson with the redistricting. So, wow. And Matt just said in the chat room, he's hearing that both Coghill and Lauren Lehman may be considering running. This race is going to get crowded. It's going to get crowded. So we'll see what happens with this. But we'll talk about more of that in hour 2. Plus, we've got Kevin McCabe coming up here at the top. We're going to talk about his new bill on gold and silver as legal tender. And we'll get the hot take on that as well. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Okay. Oh, man. I see people talking about Jesse as a bad choice for the Kenai. I'm all about more choice. More choice is better than less choice. I would rather have more people running for that seat than less at this point. I definitely think Tuckerman's got the nudge there because he's got the name recognition. But, I'm willing to see it. I think Machicki is done, quite honestly. That's my take on talking with people. I might be wrong. I may be totally wrong. I'd be the first to admit it. I have been wrong in the past, and I may be wrong now, but my feeling on it, if you ask me to lay $5 down on the table as to which direction I would go, I would say that he is done at this point. Let's see. Please tell Halcrow to stay home. And Matt says, can I like this 10 times? Well, you can try. You can like it, unlike it as much as you like it. As much as you like, as they say right there. All right. Let me go back here and see if there's anything else before we jump into it. I'm going to visit with Kevin McCabe here briefly before we come back on the air. Decision day is approaching. Will Smith was first. Oh, I read that. Wow is right. Reading is all good for all. Yes. So this is all stuff that I've already covered. All right. Okay, well, we'll see what happens then. Bring them all on. With ranked choice voting, it'll be like putting everyone in the big blender, turn it on, and what you pour out is what you get. This is Chuck. It's like putting all the colors of the rainbow into a blender and putting the pulse button, and you know what you get out? You get gray out. That's what you get. But we'll see. I mean, I'll be honest, I've had an argument with a lot of libertarians about this whole ranked choice voting thing. And they advocate that it is really a good thing, that it allows candidates who would never have a chance to get a chance to go out there. Maybe they're right. I don't know. We're going to see, though, aren't we? We're going to see where this all ends up with the jungle primary and then the ranked choice voting. We're going to see how that all turns on its head in the end. All right. Let me go over to Representative Kevin McCabe, who is in the chat room with us. Who's on the phone with us, and we're getting ready to. Kevin, how things going down there overall? I mean, outside of this bill that we're about to talk about, how's everything else going?
Well, the budget should be on the floor this morning for the first reading. Start taking amendments. I think the amendment deadline is tomorrow sometime, and we'll start debating the amendments as they come up. Tomorrow, probably most of the week in the House would be my guess. So we're finally getting to the point where the minority has a bit of say-so, or at least we get to talk a little bit more. So
right.
I think that's a good thing.
I see that they've done some amazing things, including deciding to pay off the oil tax credits all at once, to forward fund $1.2 billion in education. And file away money for all these various pet projects is pretty amazing, because I mean, last year's budget was $4.3 billion, and the proposed budget that's heading to the House is about $7 billion, which includes neither a permanent fund dividend or anything for the capital projects. That's just straight out operating. Here's what we're going to do. It's amazing. All of a sudden they've got money. They'll do all these things.
Pretty frustrating, isn't it?
Well, it's insane is what it is. We've been paying off the oil and gas tax credits, every year, as we had acknowledged, and as we can via statute. We're paying the mandatory minimums every year via statute, and now we're going to take $532 million, and instead of using it to pay back Alaskans, to stimulate the economy and put it back in the hands of the private economy with the people, we're going to give it all to the oil companies all at once to just get it off the table. I thought it was interesting that Rasmussen always said the other reason she took it off the table was to putting it basically put it out of reach of the PFD people, which I think speaks volume to me.
Yeah, there's all kinds of theories on that and many other things, including the forward funding of education, theories on future savings for the state. Paying off the oil tax credits, for instance, is going to mean a savings next year and every year after that. So that's one theory. I'm not sure that I agree with it. I think everybody continues to forget, and I say this, I ring this bell all the time, and everybody forgets the power of the multiplier of money, of private money versus government money. So
right.
Even small businesses and the chambers tend to forget that the private money coming to them is huge. It would be huge for the state. It would be a huge economic shot, but people forget that. So.
Right. Well, we've had Don Ardwin on to talk about that in the past, the multiplier effect of money in the economy. In private hands, it turns 6 or 7 times, and in the public hands, it turns less than 1 time. Which is saying something, but they all want to continue to hold this money close to the vest, either use it for government savings or spending. And again, she admits in this article in the ADN that the permanent fund was a factor of her putting out this $532 million to the oil companies all in one fair swoop. She says, she just says there was another camp that I feel wanted to take this money off the table. And so she took it instead. And that's just frustrating, I guess is the word you used. And that's enough to make my head spin. So, all right, well,
mine too.
Yeah, hold the line, Kevin. We're coming back up to it. Hour 2, dead ahead, the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like and share this video. Let's get more Alaskans involved. Don't go anywhere. We'll continue with more here in just a hot second.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Across the world on the interwebs at MichaelDukesShow.com. That's where you find us every day on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch TV as well. Also, of course, the podcasts are available every day after the show airs. You'll find those on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iTunes, CastBox, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and, of course, Spotify as well. Welcome back to the program, Hour 2. We're joined now by a guest, a special guest, surprise guest. Representative Kevin McCabe is coming on board to talk with us about HB 167, which is gold and silver is tender. We're going to get some details from him on that, as well as take your phone calls, do some headlines, and more for the remainder of the show today. Let's go over to the phones, though, here first things first, and talk with Representative Kevin McCabe. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning, Michael. I'm doing well. How are you?
You know, not too bad, not too bad. We were just talking about some of the crazy stuff that's going on down in Juneau, including I guess the budget's going to be out today, so that'll be one of the first things. I'm sure we can have you back on later this week to talk about it since it's there in the House. But let's talk first about your bill. I hadn't heard anything about it until somebody mentioned it in the chat room this morning, and it is HB 167. You want to share some details with us on this?
Sure. Well, this was a bill I put in last year. I put in two bills, the Herald's favorite bill, the license plate bill, and then HB 167 as well. Actually, I put in three, but there's another bill that's a snow track bill that's kind of hanging out there. But this HB 167 is a bill that would allow gold and silver to be legal tender in the state. As you know, our Constitution prevents the states from coining their own money, except for gold and silver. So under Section 10, Article 1 of the Constitution and the 10th Amendment, gold and silver can now be legal tender for the payment of a debt in the state of Alaska, or if this bill passes, it will. And this would secure the rights of citizens in Alaska under the 9th and 10th Amendments to tender gold and silver in the payment of debt should the merchant or payee agree to accept it. And basically what that does is, right now gold and silver could be taxed if you were to buy a gold coin or a silver coin
right
in a taxable borough. It could be taxed. This just removes that tax if you're using it for legal tender. So there's a little, it's called specie, which means it has gold in it, and these are called actually gold backs, and they're just like dollar bills, except they have a little bit of gold in them, 1/1000th of an ounce. I think there are 4 states right now that are producing them, and they've sort of become a collector's item, and I don't know, you can stash them rather than stashing dollar bills rather than stashing gold coins because they actually have gold in them. So
right.
Anyway, so this bill would bring Alaska into full compliance with the state constitution and the policies and procedures of the state with respect to the use of gold and silver and specie, which is what I just mentioned, as legal tender in the payment of debt. So I don't know, many people don't like banks. Many people keep dollar bills on hand. And right now, if you're following the inflation rate, inflation is actually the value of the dollar bill has gone down about 30% in the last little over 2 years. Even though the inflation rate they say is 7%, it's much higher than that actually. So your spending power with the dollar bill, if you're keeping dollar bills on hand, has gone way down, where if you were keeping these, it would track with gold.
Right, which has gone up commensurately with the devaluation of the dollar. It's interesting that you bring this bill up. I had a conversation. It must have been 15 years ago, I guess, with then gubernatorial candidate Sean Parnell. And it was actually a conversation off the air as we were exiting the studio after he'd been on the air for a while. And I said, I'd really like, I said, this may seem like an odd request, but I would really like the government to look into, a state coin or, some kind of monetary usage for silver and gold in the state of Alaska. I think that would make sense as a hedge against anything potentially going on with the U.S. dollar. And boy, he looked at me like I had grown a second head out of my shoulder at the time, like I was some kind of crazy conspiracy theorist. But this is something that's happened in countries and communities for years, where they've tried to hedge against the overspending and the inflationary measures that have gone on in different nations. This is the one way to help prevent, being caught in that trap. And it is a legal, authorized, constitutional way for us to be able to protect ourselves. And I think that it is about time that we came onto this.
Yeah, so I agree. And that's exactly why I put it in. But as I moved forward with this, there was some other very interesting facets of it that came to light. One of them being that the state of Alaska could now manufacture this money, and it could be, let's say, the Artist Guild wanted to have a contest and do how the paintings were going to be. Maybe on the face of the money, we could do Denali, or we could do a number of different, the Iditarod, maybe, the Jeff Schultz thing. And you could actually sell these as tourist, I don't know what you'd call them, but products. So if you look at New Hampshire, Utah, and Nevada have all done what they call goldbacks, and they all have these beautiful artist renderings on them, and they all sell them as sort of souvenirs. Now, if they were sold as a souvenir, they could still be taxed, but if they were used as legal tender under this bill, they can't be taxed. Right. So, well, anyways, all sorts of interesting facets in this thing as I move through it. So,
right. What's the reaction been so far from your fellows there in the House? It's obviously going to Community and Regional Affairs, but what's the viability of passage? And I mean, are you getting pushback? What's the reaction to it so far?
Initially I got a little pushback, wanting to know about the tax. So the speaker actually was concerned about the tax on them if they were sold as a souvenir, and I fixed that. We fixed that in the bill. So, I have right now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 co-sponsors. The Senate's very interested in it. Senator Revak he actually came to my office and said, "Hey, I see this. This is really interesting to me." I have some examples of the Goldbacks bills in my office that that I can show to everybody, and it's the reaction, especially from those representatives in gold mining districts, has been very positive. So hopefully I can get this through before the end of the year. We'll see.
Well, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, apparently nobody wants to talk about a full PFD or anything else, so this is what we're relegated to, right? I mean, at this point, because nobody wants to talk about a full PFD, so let's talk about gold as legal tender and everything else. I mean, this is the world we're living in right now, Kevin.
Right. Well, I understand that. I think you'll hear several of us, many of us, if not most of the minority at least, talking about a full PFD here in the next couple of days. But certainly the timing of when they allowed this bill to come out of CRA is an interesting facet of this as well. So,
and explain to me that. Why is this the interesting time? Simply because it's going on while the full budget is about to be discussed, or?
Right. Oh, of course. You know, there's a certain strategy to that. We talked about I think last year we were talking about using time compression as a weapon. This is another strategy. So put the minority bills into the committees and hear them in committees when during budget talks, you know, kind of to keep the minority busy. It's a strategy. Nobody's complaining about it. It's just a strategy. It just is what it is.
So now you just have to make sure that your focus is split so that you can focus on your bill, but at the same time still be paying attention to what's happening on the House floor for the overall budget bill now that it's come out of committee.
Absolutely, and that's where great staff comes in, and the minority has great staffers. Our team is amazing, so I think we'll be able to accomplish that without a problem.
You want to talk briefly here? We got about 4.5 minutes here. The budget is coming out. We've already seen a sneak peek. The ADN had a laydown here on what was coming out of committee right now, including a finance committee voted last week to spend $532 million paying off the outstanding oil and gas tax credits, which have been paid down every year at the statutory amount. There's no arguing that we owe this to the oil and gas industry. Nobody is debating that. That is it. But there is a statutory mechanism that says that, you know, we can pay at X amount. A minimum amount is like $70 or $80 million a year. And Sarah Rasmussen had argued and put the amendment in to pay it all at once. Now you add that to the $1.2 billion that they're reserving and wanting to use for forward funding of schools. And some other things as well, and all of a sudden you've got a $7 billion budget with nothing in it for the PFD or any kind of capital projects as well. And that's got some people, I'm scratching my head. They wanted to save it, they wanted to do this, they wanted to do that. Basically, it seems like they want to take all this money and instead of putting it in private hands where it turns in the economy and has a multiplier effect, they want to instead use it all on government spend and wash their hands of it.
Yeah, isn't it amazing how fast those little, and I say little sort of facetiously, how they add up? You know, $50 million bonus on top of the BSA, the oil tax credits. Every part of it adds up, and I think it's emblematic of the problem we have when you're dealing with such a huge number of inputs and programs and everything else that you can't really focus on the totality. You focus on the trees, and then eventually you stand back and the forest is huge and you say, holy cow, what have I done? Or what have we done?
Right, because we weren't paying attention.
Individuals on the floor to start trimming away at those, if you will.
Right, because on top of the $1.2 billion in forward funding and the BSA, they're going to give the schools a one-time bonus of $57 million. They're giving more money to the University of Alaska. And, of course, they're going to give out these energy relief checks, which anybody who's anybody will tell you has nothing to do with a PFD. It's not a PFD. It's an energy relief check. It's totally separate. It has nothing to do. Do not even think of this as a PFD. This is, again, more kind of smoke and mirrors to give you some more money without basically enchaining themselves to a future PFD cost.
Right. Well, it's energy relief because they didn't want to call it the last half of last year's PFD because that would have given the governor a win. And of course, we don't want the governor to have a win. So.
Right. No, exactly. Well, Kevin, final thoughts here before I let you go on what's happening today, tomorrow, the budget and everything else. What are your final thoughts and what can people do to help?
Well, certainly you can make your wishes known with the PFD. It's just as important, regardless of what Representative Josephson says about the unheard masses. it's important that you call your representative, make your wishes known on the PFD, especially from Fairbanks. It's so important. The representatives up there believe that they know better than you do, and that the PFD is not as important to you as you think it is. They think it would be better off being spent on the university. And make your wishes known as far as the budget. If you think that what we're doing is wrong, if you think the oil tax credit, the idea that Rep. Rasmussen put out, or the $57 million BSA school bonus is wrong, then you need to make your wishes known. And I know that everybody's fatigued. I know you're tired of talking about it, but I tell you, there is nothing more important than talking to your representative. I can talk to them, but at the end of the day, they work for you. So it's important that you call.
Absolutely. And we look forward to seeing more of the minority starting to talk about the full PFD now that we're into the actual budget and into the amendment process. And we hope to see some amendments for paying that full PFD as well. I mean, let's get some of these people on record as to where they actually stand on whether or not that is actually the people's money. I mean, I look forward to seeing some of those amendments coming out, and I'm assuming you guys are working on some of that stuff.
Absolutely. And, the frustrating thing about all this is, in my opinion, the PFD should never be used inside of budget talks like with the oil tax credits or mixed in with taxes or anything else. The PFD is separate. It's on the left side of the equation. It gets paid to the people first. It shouldn't even be a consideration. Yeah. What should be a consideration is revenue versus spending, and that's on the other side of the equation.
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely. All right, Kevin McCabe, thank you so much, my friend, for coming on board. We appreciate it. We look forward to seeing what comes out the next couple of days, and we will we'll revisit with you once we get that figured out.
Okay, Michael, I appreciate that, and I'm very interested on comments on the gold and silver bill, so send me an email.
All right, thank you so much for coming out. I appreciate that, and we will we'll get more people involved in that as well. Hopefully more folks will show up or comment on the gold and silver bill. That's HB 167, which is now going to be in front of Community and Regional Affairs this morning. All right, folks, we are out of time for this segment. We got more coming up. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return with more right after this.
What is that?
Common sense. Regularly heard on American radio. Michael Duke Show. Radio.
All right, we're in the break right now, and we are continuing. Ren says, sure, pay obligations to oil companies, but left Alaskans to wither on the vine. I mean, we were already paying those obligations to the oil companies. We were paying them on a yearly basis at the statutory minimum, which is what they agreed to when they decided to do that. Now, we had been paying them all in big lump sums well beyond what the statutory minimum was, but when things got tough, we started pulling back on that and paying just the minimum as they agreed to. That was in the fine print. And so, I mean, this idea that somehow we should take this $532 million and just cash it out and do that and get it all over and done with, there are other things that can be done with that money. We could continue to pay the $70 or $80 million a year minimum that goes towards that, and in 5 or 6 years it would be all paid off. But instead, we're going to take all this money, this windfall, and throw it out there, use it on the government spend instead of allowing people to, allowing it to get into the private economy. Or, I mean, I guess even putting it in savings would be the other option to start to repay the CBR. But here we go. Here's where we're at. Hoffman told senators that a $1,500 PFD was too much, controlled by outside interests. I mean, I remember when Josh Reback said, could you imagine having a $10,000 PFD? That would be so wrong. I mean, what? I mean, what? you understand that if we had a $10,000 PFD, it would mean that the government had a commensurate take on the other side, right? That they also were seeing a rising tide floats all boats. That's what we were talking about. I mean, it is just crazy. I hope we get a good PFD this year. My fuel bill doubled since last year, says Chris. Well, I mean, what they're proposing right now, what the legislature and the House is proposing right now, is a $1,250 PFD and a $1,300 energy payment. Whatever they're calling it. What are they calling it now? Energy relief check. $1,300 energy relief check, which would put about $2,500 into each Alaskan's pocket at this point, which is still well over $1,000 less than what we should be getting as per the statutory PFD. Hashtag follow the damn law. I mean, that's what's going on. And you got people like Rasmussen making these proposals, quite honestly, stupid proposals. And you got people like Rasmussen and Merrick who are causing, they're the ones that have basically took the power out of the majority in this situation. If they had not, and if they had stuck with the Republicans and created a Republican majority, we would still be facing challenges because we've got Bert Stedman and Natasha von Imhoff and company in the Senate Finance Committee. But it would have been a lot easier road to hoe than what we have right now. And that is, I mean, just crazy. Let's see what else we got going on here. Robbie's saying something about tampering with a grand jury. Skidmore and Chenault and No Little Roach. I don't know what you're talking about there, Robbie. You have to be a little clear. I don't get the esoteric comments sometimes. Watching these committees is like reading the ADN, CNN, and MSNBC. It's so disgusting, says Christine. Don't grow weary in well-doing, Christine. I know it's frustrating. I know it's heartbreaking. I know it's disheartening. I know it's all those things and more. But don't grow weary in well-doing. All right. Let's see. What do we got? We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Got 8 shares. 8 shares this morning. 66 people in the chat room. There's a lot of lurkers in there. You're lurking in the background. Feel free to, share the show, to like the show. There's 66 of you. If half of you shared the show, it would be a hell of a day, wouldn't it? Feel free to get it done. All right, we're jumping back into it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Welcome back to the program. Continuing now, it is the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Yeah. All right, so, like I said, I was talking about earlier last week. I said, if I had a house that was like a Game of Thrones, the House of Dukes, Lord of the Morning, the whole thing and the deal and the Great North and my motto would probably be, ready for anything or prepare for the worst and hope for the best. That would be my house motto. Because I like to do that. I like to think about preparing for the worst and hoping for the best, making sure that all my surprises are happy ones. And it's one of the reasons why I purchased a bivy stick. Now, the bivy stick is a small portable device. It's about half the size of your cell phone. And you connect it to your cell phone via Bluetooth, and you download the app from the App Store when you're out and amongst civilization. And once you do that, it turns your cell phone into a satellite communications device, meaning You can send text messages via satellite. You can send emails via satellite. You can send your location, your pins on a map of where you are via satellite, meaning anywhere that you are, regardless of whether you've got cell phone reception, as long as you have the bivy stick with you, you can connect with the world. And that's a pretty darn cool thing, being able to talk and be in contact with people no matter where you go. Because, again, preparing for the worst and hoping for the best, meaning, if you get, we just had this huge avalanche up in Highland. Now, luckily, in Eagle River, nobody was hurt and no homes were lost or buried or whatever. But, if you were cut off from being able to contact people through a situation like that, or an earthquake, or a tsunami, or, zombie apocalypse, whatever it is, it sure would be nice to let your folks know exactly where you are. And that's the beauty of the bivy stick. You can let people know where you are. It's got a little button on it for check-in, like you can push it and it sends a preset, message that says, "Hey, I'm okay, and here's where my location is." And it's got another button on it, a little red button under a flap. You pull it up and you push it, and it says, "Help me, I've fallen and I can't get up and I need help, and here's where my location is." Or you could just set it to arbitrarily drop your location every 10 minutes, 8 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, however often you want to do it. So if you're traveling, if you're snow machining up in the mountains outside of Cantwell or out by Summit, or you're rafting or something way up the Yukon, or you've gone out on the ocean to wherever, Hitchinbrook, or wherever it is you're going, if you need to, you can tell people exactly where you are. You can keep in contact. Plus, Bivy is always rolling out new features. They've got a new one coming up that I want to talk about here in the near future called Group Track. We're going to give you some details on that. But this thing is amazing. And it's only $199. And they've got a variety of plans. There's no activation fees. They got plans starting as low as $14 a month for what I like to call the safety plan, which means, it's got a limited number of credits. And if you don't use those credits, they roll over into the next month. So you can use them next month and next month and next month. I bought my wife one of these so that, she could throw it in her glove box and have it and be ready just in case she may need it. And again, 5 days worth of battery life, pings down to 2 minutes apart at no extra charge. You can ignore cellular congestion. It doesn't matter if the towers go down, because as long as you can see the sky, your bivy stick is still up and rolling. Oh, plus you can get weather forecasts, regular forecast, aviation forecast, marine forecasts, all different weather forecasts, and the mapping and everything else. It doesn't matter, whatever you're doing. If you're a hunter or a fisherman or a truck driver or a doctor, snow machiner, ATVer, rafter, boater, floater, Avon lady, soccer mom, whatever it is that you are, you need a bivy stick. Again, only $199. B-I-V-Y, bivy stick. You can find them at satellitewest.com, or you can go to one of the local dealers, including South Central Radar on the Spit down in Homer, Radar Alaska in Kodiak, Lundy Marine Electronics in Dutch Harbor, Safe and Sound in Soldotna, Anchorage, or Wasilla, Communications North in Seward, or Arctic Fire and Safety in Homer. So there you go. That's what you need to do. And special thank you to Bivy for sponsoring the program. All right. What else we got going on here? We just finished up with Kevin McCabe, who came on board to talk about his new bill for gold and silver tender. We could continue to talk about that, or we could talk a little bit here. Let's see. What else did I want to talk about here? Okay. Yep. So I got this and I got that. Phone lines are open all the way, by the way, as well, at 907-433-3150. The Pivotel call-in line, powered by our friends at Pivotel Satellite and Satellite West. So a couple different things that are going on. One we were talking about before we went to the break here at the top of the hour was all the people who were showing up for the new congressional seat that is now open after the death of Don Young. Here are just a few of the names that are being floated around there. You've got Governor Sarah Palin, former Governor Sarah Palin. She's been teasing it a couple times. Anchorage Democratic Rep Chris Tuck, Native leader Tara Sweeney, gardening writer and attorney for the ADN, Jeffrey Lowenfels. He's a gardening writer for the ADN, not an attorney, but he happens to also be, you know what I mean. Independent Al Gross, along with Republican Senator Josh Revak. In addition to that, we're hearing that Andrew Halcrow may be interested in throwing his hat into the ring as well. And, of course, Nick Begich III and Chris Constant are both also running for the. I mean, this is going to be a crowded field. This is going to be a real crowded field. All of these people have been publicly floating the idea that they are considering it. Jeff Landfield at the Alaska Landmine has reported that, in fact, Revak is not just considering it, he's actively going at it, but he's playing coy right now. That he's going to be, jumping in there to win it. But it looks like there are a lot of Republicans who are throwing their name in the hat on this. David Eastman and Laura Reinbold were both reached out to by the paper and asked if they were going to join. Republican Eastman said that he hasn't endorsed a candidate for U.S. House, but didn't respond when he was asked if he was considering a run himself. Reinbold didn't respond either. But you can just see this is going to be a huge, huge change. One of the interesting quotes at the end is from Lindsay Kavanaugh, who's the executive director of the Alaska Democrats. She said her party is going to be working to educate Alaskans about the state's new voting systems, particularly ranked choice voting, including that residents don't have to rank all four candidates in the general election ballot. So you could see here that what they're going to do is they're going to pick, choose these two and don't choose the last two. They don't want any Republicans getting any chance at the end for some of their, if none of their Democrats make it to the second or third or fourth round, they want to make sure that your vote doesn't go towards any of those Republicans if you're a Democrat. Which kind of an interesting take on what's going on. Oh yeah, Chris By, by the way, Christopher By also going to be running for the special election as well. So we got the Libertarians in there as well. Whew, man, it's a hot mess. It's going to be a hot, steamy mess when it's all said. And again, we still haven't seen any further education from the state of Alaska on how this is all going to be. Remember, we're going to have a special primary, a special jungle primary in June, and then the regular primary in August on exactly the same day, and they're saying exactly the same ballot as the special general election, which I don't even know what to say to that. At this point, no education as to exactly what's going to happen with that. All right, let's take a couple calls here, or one call, I guess, before we go to break. We'll go over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Michael. This is Ron in North Pole.
Good morning, Ron.
Since you brought up Will Smith at the beginning of your show today, I just wanted to point out something to other listeners. And this happened about 2 years ago when I first discovered it. But I would suggest that anyone who's a gun owner or firearm enthusiast simply Google Will Smith on gun safety.
Really?
Because he has a video. It's absolutely astounding. It's during a prop session, and he gives the crew a lesson. It's only about 20 seconds long, but it's worth your watching.
Okay, I'll have to take a look at that. I hadn't heard that. Will Smith on gun safety. All right.
All right. Bye.
Thanks, Ron. I appreciate the call. Let's go over here. We got one more call before we go to break. Good morning. Who's this?
Sandra from Fairbanks.
Hello, Sandra. What's on your mind?
So I am a huge Palin fan until she endorsed Walker. if she seriously gets into the race, should I forgive her and give her a chance? To me, she betrayed the conservatives by not endorsing Parnell, that she backed Walker.
Well, that's a good question. I guess that's something you're going to have to decide, Sandra. I mean, I endorsed Walker in that same race. To my great chagrin, later on, it turned out I thought that he was going to, hold to some of the things that I had discussed with him early on, and he didn't, which was obviously very disappointing for me. So I guess I would be in the same boat with Sarah Palin. Do you forgive me for endorsing Walker at that point?
Yeah, but mainly because you're not running, for anything. And, I love, your talk and, I mean, I would have to think about it if you were actually running for something, but you're not in the public office, so right. You're entitled to your, your own opinion.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I guess I could say I'm an opinion maker, or I sway opinion one way or the other. And I was a pretty stern advocate for Walker at the time because I thought that he was going to make some differences. And, of course, it turned out that he got subsumed by the Democratic Party, and a lot of things turned out poorly. And it's probably one of my greatest, I guess I should say my greatest shames that I did that I supported Walker in the end. Not that I was a huge fan of Parnell, but I supported Walker in the end because I thought he was going to bring about some change. Well, he brought about change, just not the change I was expecting. So, I mean, I guess it just shows, Sandra, that we can all be fooled. We can all make mistakes. Right. And, I mean, I guess I would say that, I think you should look at it from that perspective, that we can all make mistakes. And, what do we do from there?
Yeah, I guess she just did it more publicly than you did.
Well, she had a lot more. She had a lot more horsepower than I. She has a lot more horsepower than I had. So that's what it is. And Walker was saying all the right things. That was the thing. Walker was talking the talk and saying all the right things, and it just. I think she got jumped. There's several people in the chat room who've said that he bamboozled them as well. So it does happen.
Okay.
So it I would say forgive and forget. Let's move on. That's been 8 years ago now.
Okay.
I mean, I would hope you would forgive me, and I would hope that Sarah would get a little bit of that forgiveness as well. So, all right.
Okay. Well, as long as we get a good Republican replace him.
Well, that's all we can hope for at this point. And I don't know if that's an oxymoron, good Republican. I just don't know if that's an oxymoron or not anymore. But, Sandra, thank you so much for your call. We appreciate you calling in this morning. All right, folks. We got one final segment coming up. We're going to talk a little bit about something. What was I going to talk about? I hate it when that happens. I got the old man brain. I forgot. Oh, we're going to talk about the budget. That's what we're going to talk about. There we go. Rank the red. That's the strategy for the ranked choice voting. Rank the red. Gotta go. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio. Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think I was the only one that got bamboozled by Walker. Although, I probably should have known better. Susie says, Sarah just loves to be in front of the camera. I don't think she's going to run, but we will see. Again, if I was a betting man, Susie, I would say that you are probably correct. I don't think Sarah has been a serious political contender for 10 years. I think that's pretty much. I think she courts things like this to, get the name recognition back up and to, to get things. I don't think that she's serious about it. And so I would agree that I do not think she's going to come down. Dwayne agrees. He says, I doubt she would get in after what politics has done to her family. I would think she would take the money she has acquired and enjoy her days. If it was me, that would probably be. But again, I'm happy to sit out in quiet days of contemplation and study and reading and scholarship and enjoying time with my family and movies and hanging out. That to me is my idea of paradise. Running for office and being a politician, definitely not my idea of paradise, for sure. Somebody said something here a second ago. We forgive you. And forgive me also, says Rick. Apparently Rick also got bamboozled. There's a lot of us that got bamboozled. There's a lot of us that got bamboozled on that. Parnell didn't veto the swimming pool in Bethel like the Republicans wanted him to, so more than a few of us donated to Walker, says Willie. Yeah, I mean, again, Walker was saying all the right things. He was talking the talk, but definitely not walking the walk in the long run. She's rich now. She's going to move on. Not even sure why we're talking about this. Well, it is what it is. Sean says, instead of ranking the red, maybe give consideration to a party who didn't bring us $30 trillion in debt and 20 years of war. The old definition of insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly, says Sean Thorne, libertarian candidate. I agree, Sean. I mean, I was just saying what Kevin McCabe was bringing up is that's the Republican answer to the ranked choice voting. I mean, ranked choice will give us some other candidates on the ballot. Now the question is, will the if the primary gets so full of Republican candidates, will there even be a Libertarian or a Democrat on the ballot? That'll be the interesting one. I mean, depending on how many Republicans get in on the primary, will there even be a Democrat on the ballot? So that's the choice. Walker did have the added benefit of running against Parnell, a very weak, ineffectual governor. True. That's also true as well. Rusty says, I supported Walker strongly in 2013 and worked closely with him until I realized he would lie through his teeth to people at fairs and such. That's a good thing. Palin is a quitter, and does she even live in AK? Well, that's the question. I thought she was living in Arizona now. I didn't think she still had Alaska as her residency. I think the quitter thing is unfounded. I'll be honest with you. I think the quitter thing is an unfounded accusation. I mean, the fact that Andy McDowell and others were filing ethics complaints against the administration on a weekly basis, and she was having to defend herself legally, I mean, it was bleeding her family dry. I mean, at some point, when you can't even go to a public event like the opening of a Iditarod or the Iron Dog or anything else without getting an ethics complaint, doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you're a quitter. It just means at some point you have to realize the futility of what you're doing, and that it was becoming a huge distraction. The fact that she was had been running for vice president and everything else became just a huge distraction. So it was I don't know. I think the whole quitter thing is a little overblown, personally. Let's see. I will tell you, spent all weekend in the Matsu talking to people, and they are ready for something different. But even if it ended up being for Republicans, I still think ranked choice allows for something else. Other parties will struggle to be even on the ballot because of the jungle primary. Ranked choice voting is not in and of itself the biggest problem. It's a combination of jungle primary and ranked choice voting. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think people are ready for something different. Maybe we'll be wrong about ranked choice voting and jungle primary. I don't think so, but, maybe it'll surprise us. Yeah, so it is what it is. All right, we're 8 seconds out. I guess it's time to jump back into it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Let's do it. All right. Welcome back. One final segment of the show this morning. Lots of discussion in the chat room during this last break. People really going off about some stuff, talking about some of the choices, including Sarah Palin, who I really, quite honestly, I think that she's basically making the noise to make the noise. You know what I mean? She's putting that stuff out there basically to keep her name in the news. I think she likes to be in the spotlight and the cameras, and she wants to see if she can parlay it maybe into something larger and bigger. I don't think that she would ever jump back into a political race. In fact, I think that she's been, my personal feeling is that she has been political kryptonite for the last 10 years. That she still says things still happen, but that more than anything, I think that I think it's more about at this point, the celebrity than it is about the actual work of doing, and I don't know why you wouldn't just wander off in the pucker brush with all your money that you made and just relax and live the quiet life with your family. To me, that would be the ideal. If you gave me $5 million right now and says, what do you want to do? I'd be like, later. I'd probably still do the show because it's a labor of love, but everything else I'd be like, later. I'm going to go hang out with my family, do some more reading. I never have enough time to do all the reading that I want. I got a lot of stuff that I want to read about, a lot of stuff that I want to learn before I die, and that would be perfect for me. So I don't understand why people would be interested in doing that. But I think this is going to give us an opportunity. Now, I was just saying that, I've had arguments with lots of libertarians about the jungle primary and the ranked choice voting. I'm staunchly against it, have been from the beginning, mostly because it was such a wholesale change and it was done through the ballot measure. And I thought that was just the wrong way to do it. If you wanted to at least have a discussion about it and bring it up through the legislature, that would have been one thing. Obviously, that whole process is imperfect, to say the least. But, 36 pages of changes to the law through a ballot initiative, I guarantee you that there probably not 1 in 100,000 people read all 36 pages of the changes that were in there. I stopped at page 24. I was like, I can't read any more of this. This is insane. But I doubt that probably, maybe 1 in 10,000 actually read the whole thing all the way through. But, there are arguments that the libertarians are making that this is the only way that you can get some of the not fringe candidates, but probably some of the hopefuls that would not normally make it through the normal two-party dichotomy to be able to get their voices heard. So maybe, I don't know, maybe this will all turn out to be different and I will be wrong. And when it's all said and done, it was a great thing for us to have ranked choice voting in jungle primaries. I don't think so, but I guess we'll see. Proof will be in the pudding. So anyway, that was what we were talking about. We were talking about all the different people that were going to run for the congressional seat. It's crazy stuff. Somebody just said, $5 million gets rid of you, huh? Where do I send the check? Oh, you send me $5 million, my friend. That'll be great. All right. I read ballot measure number 2, said Susie. Did you read all 36 pages of it, Susie? I'm just curious. I had made my decision by about page 17. And by the time I got to page 24, I'm like, I don't have any time to read the rest of this because I'm already against it. That's the crazy part. All right, phone number 433-3150, the Pivotel call-in line. We got time for maybe 1 or 2 more calls before we run out of daylight this morning. If you'd like to sound off, now's the time to do it. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. The House Finance Committee has now moved the bill. It's supposed to be coming up, and debates are supposed to be on the House floor today for all of the budget for the entire House. The budget is almost $7 billion. That's up from $4.3 billion to $7 billion. But we still have no money for a PFD. We still have no money for capital projects or renovations or even maintenance, deferred maintenance. $7 billion. $1.2 billion is going to fund schools, forward fund schools for 2 years, plus some extra money, $57 million in one-time boost for schools, plus more money to the University of Alaska, plus, and $875 million as an energy relief check. And no, do not call it a secondary dividend. Do not even tie it in any way, shape, or form to a dividend. And, of course, $532 million to pay outstanding oil and gas tax credits, which we have been paying. We had already been paying them at the statutory amount, which was, $70, $80 million a year. And we would have those paid off in about 6 years at that rate. But no, we're going to take it all now, and we're going to get it. We're just going to boom. We're just going to do it all now because I'm just sick of looking at it. I'm just sick of them. These clothes. No, I'm sorry. That was another one. That was Natasha. But I mean, that's exactly kind of what she says. State law calls for Alaska to pay off certain fraction of the total outstanding credits each year, but Representative Sarah Rasmussen proposed paying them off early. We have the ability to pay off the obligation that the state made. She goes, let's just do it. Oh, and by the way, there was another factor too, the permanent fund. She said there was another camp that I feel wanted to take money off the table, and that was the permanent fund. So she wanted to get to the money first. Oof. I mean, just oof. Well, somebody said, I guess it was Jim Holm last week that called into the program. He said it was a Chinese curse. I used to heard it was a Chinese proverb, but maybe it is a curse. May you live in interesting times. Maybe that is more of a curse than a proverb. Because by God, we sure are right now, aren't we? In every way, shape, or form, we are living in interesting times. And it may be more. But you know what? Today's going to be a good day. I just want you to sit down with yourselves and look at yourselves and for a moment be quiet and just say to yourselves, today's going to be a good day. It is, my friends. Today is going to be great. Every day above ground is a good day. When you're on this side of the grass, you got nothing to complain about that matters. Be kind. Love one another. Live well. That is my mantra. You're going to have a great day, and you're going to be kind, and you're going to love one another. And tomorrow's going to be okay, too. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We will see you tomorrow, my friends. James says, seems paying more than the statutory minimum on the oil and gas credits is more important to some than even following the statute on the PFD. Yep. Hashtag follow all the damn laws, right? All right, my friends. Well, I had a great time today. Thank you for coming in and being part of it with us. We will see you tomorrow. Have a good one.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.